Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Extension Development Studies, SOEDS, Master of Arts Urban Studies, MOS, Second Year, Med 047 Ecology, Environment and Urban Development, Block 1 Key Environmental Issues, Unit 3 Landscape Ecology, 3.0 Introduction. The term landscape ecology was first introduced by the German biogeographer Karl Troll, 1939, incorporating the regional geography and vegetation science and particularly inspired by the distinct perspective offered by aerial photography. Landscape ecology essentially combined the spatial approach of the geographer with the functional approach of the ecologist. It emphasizes the interaction between spatial pattern and ecological process, that is, the causes and consequences of spatial heterogeneity across a range of scales. Landscape ecology evolved from the need to understand the development and dynamics of patterns in ecological phenomena, the role of disturbances in ecosystems, and characteristic spatial and temporal scales of ecological events leading to change that are taking place in a particular region or a tentative larger natural geographical boundary. It emphasizes on the broad, spatial scales and various ecological effects arising out of its variable spatial patterning. It deals with the effects of the spatial configuration of mosaics of a wide variety of ecological phenomena. It is further described as the study of the mutual effects of spatial pattern on ecological processes. Hence it not only promotes the development of models and theories on spatial relationships, it also helps in examining various processes at different spatial scales and helps revealing spatial patterns in a variety of variables and their dynamics. Scientific contributions in the field of landscape ecology are essential for land management and land use planning. However, a human component is not included explicitly in the definition of landscape ecology because humans are but one of the factors creating and responding to spatial heterogeneity. 3.1 Objectives. After reading this unit, you should be able to times describe concepts, principles and methods of studying landscape ecology, times explain the problems of scales and its importance in landscape ecology, times analyze the various theories in landscape ecology, times explain factors affecting changes on landscape diversity, times describe future of landscape ecology, times C establish the relationship between landscape ecology and sustainability, science, times identify linkages between landscape ecology and natural resource management. 3.2 Landscape ecology. The exact definition of a landscape can vary greatly, and most landscape ecologists agree that a landscape is a heterogeneous land area that is often hierarchically structured. A landscape is an open system with matter, energy, resources, organism flows across landscape boundaries and in interactions with other landscapes, known as landscape functions or processes. For example, nutrients and pollutants following hydrologic flows reach aquatic system from uplands, thus flowing across the landscape boundaries. Both landscape structure and landscape functions change over time and across space due to natural as well as anthropogenic disturbances. The changes may be in a variety of ways and the rates of change may vary across a landscape. For instance, a contiguous large landscape may be fragmented into smaller pieces or some landscape elements may be lost. It may also happen that small landscapes or patches may coalesce into larger ones, depending on the intensity and frequency of disturbances. Some changes takes place instantly, while other changes take place in a gradual manner. The major differences in the landscape lie in the landscape integrity, which is a measure of health at the landscape level, while other integrity concepts indicate the health status of ecosystems or communities. Landscape integrity results from complex interactions among ecosystems in the landscape. This can be measured in terms of indicators such as productivity and diversity of native species at the landscape scale. The exact relationships between landscape integrity and landscape structure and function remain so far unknown but are likely to be nonlinear. Changes in the landscape structure and function may or may not lead to significant changes in landscape integrity. For instance, modifications in some patches in a landscape may not affect its integrity due to elasticity or compensation by other patches in the landscape. 3.2.1 Principles Forman 1995 listed 12 principles of landscape ecology, which are organized into four categories, namely I. Landscapes and regions, 2. Patches and corridors, 3. Mosaics and 4. Applications, I. Landscapes and regions, 1. Landscape and region, a mix of local ecosystem or land use types is repeated over the land, forming a landscape, which is the basic element in a region at broader scale composed of a non-repetitive, high-contrast, coarse-grained pattern of landscapes. 2. Patch corridor matrix, the arrangement or structural pattern of patches, corridors, and a matrix that constitute a landscape is a major determinant of functional flows and movements through the landscape and of changes in its pattern and process over time. 2. Patches and corridors. 3. Large natural vegetation patches. These are the structures in a landscape that protect aquifers and interconnected stream networks, sustain viable populations of most species, provide core habitat and escape cover for most large home range vertebrates, and tolerate near-natural disturbance regimes. 4. Patch shape. An ecologically optimum patch shape, to accomplish several key functions, usually has a large core with some curvilinear boundaries and narrow lobes. The patch shape depends on orientation angle relative to the hydrologic flows. 5. Interactions among ecosystems. All ecosystems in a landscape are interrelated, with movement or flow rate of materials dropping sharply with distance, but more gradually for species interactions between ecosystems of the same type. 6. Metapopulation dynamics. For subpopulations on separate patches, the local extinction rate decreases with greater habitat quality or patch size, and recolonization increases with corridors, stepping stones, a suitable matrix habitat, or short interpatch distance. 3. Mosaics. 7. The landscape resistance denotes to the arrangement of spatial elements, especially barriers, conduits, and highly heterogeneous areas that offers resistance to flow or movement of species, NGY, material, and disturbance over a landscape. 8. Grain size. A coarse-grained landscape containing fine-grained arcas is optimum to provide for large patch. Ecological benefits, multi-habitat, species including humans, and a breadth of environmental resources and conditions. 9. Landscape change. Land is transformed by several spatial and temporal processes, overlapping in order, including perforation, fragmentation, and attrition, which increase habitat loss and isolation, but otherwise cause very different effects on spatial pattern and ecological process. 10. Mosaic sequence. Land is transformed from more to less suitable habitat in a small number of basic mosaic sequences, the ecologically best being in progressive parallel strips from an edge, though modifications of this pattern lead to an ecologically optimum sequence. 4. Applications. 11. Aggregate with outliers. Land containing humans is best arranged ecologically by aggregating land uses, yet maintaining small patches and corridors of nature throughout developed areas, as well as outliers of human activity spatially arranged along major boundaries. 12. Indispensable patterns. Top priority patterns for protection, with no known substitute for their ecological benefits, are a few large natural vegetation patches, wide vegetated corridors protecting water courses, connectivity for movement of key species among large patches and small patches, and corridors providing heterogeneous bits of nature throughout developed areas, additional principles have been proposed by different authors. These include the principle that local ecological conditions, example organism abundance and species diversity, are affected by the landscape context or attributes of the surrounding landscape. For example, bird species richness within a stand is largely affected by the vegetation structure in the surrounding areas. Food in oil palm plantations supports higher levels of wild pigs that, in turn, significantly reduce tree seedling regeneration and tree species richness in stands adjacent to the plantations. 3.2.2 Methods. Scientific methods of studying landscape ecology include approaches and tools for collection, analysis, and integration of both spatial and non-spatial data. In terms of data collection, methods like sampling and observations are routinely used in landscape ecology. Experimentation is also increasingly being used, even though challenges in identifying landscape of large heterogeneous areas are difficult. While sampling and experimentation usually requires fieldwork, remote sensing techniques helps in acquiring information about an area without direct physical contact and have become an essential tool for obtaining large-scale spatial data in the forms of satellite imagery and aerial photography. In addition, global positioning systems, GPS, satellite-based georeferencing systems, are frequently used to gather spatial data, especially for purposes of ground truthing and location of sampling points. Major tools for data analysis and integration include geographic information systems, GIS, spatial statistics, and modeling. This combination is arguably the most important tool for storing, manipulating, analyzing, and integrating both spatial and non-spatial data. Spatial statistics or geostatistics, example, spatial autocorrelation, kriging, spectral analysis, and trend surface analysis, along with special softwares such as FracStats and Patch Analyst are tools highly useful for analyzing landscape patterns. As landscape structure and management practices often vary across space, spatially explicit models are particularly useful in predicting the future trend and the rate of change, which further helps in developing a policy for sustainable management of the landscape. Spatially explicit models are computer-based that account for the ecological and socio-economic differences among different locations in the landscapes and allow efficient analysis of spatial interactions. Combining remote sensing and GIS data in these models is of great help to natural resource managers. With appropriate arrangement of different landscape elements in space and time, with data examined in the form of different thematic maps for a particular area region, comparison of management, alternatives and ecological consequences becomes much easy. 3.2.3 Concept of scale. To understand landscape ecology, it is imperative to first understand the concept of scale. Acid rain, global climate change, habitat fragmentation, and conservation of biodiversity all require revealing patterns and processes at very broad scales. While addressing such broad-scale issues, ecologists are aware of the importance of choosing appropriate scales for conducting research. It is very crucial for landscape ecologists to be specific in scale they use. Generally, scale refers to cartographic scale, i.e., the degree of spatial reduction, indicating the smaller dimensions representing a larger unit of measure. Cartographic scale is expressed as the ratio or representative fraction, RF, of distance on the map to distance on the surface of Earth that is represented on a map or image. For example, 1, 10, 000 or 1, 100, 000. A very fine resolution means large map of a small spatial extent, and very coarse resolution means that the maps cover large areas and do not reflect much details. Example 1 to 50, 000. landscape ecologists often refer to scale as a problem or challenge. This occurs for several reasons, including the inherent difficulty in understanding and predicting an ecological attribute over a large area, the logistical problems associated with sampling or experimentation over large areas, and the associated statistical problem of pseudo-replication. 3.2.4 Evolution and Theory. Study of ecosystems gave way to the study of more complex systems for which multidisciplinary approaches proved to be essential. To understand the functioning of an agricultural or forest land, to evaluate the impact of clear cutting, forestation, or even the removal of hedgerows on fauna, flora, and flow of water and nutrients, it was necessary to times explicitly take the spatial dimension into account, times recognize man as an integral part of the ecological system, and times recognize the spatial and temporal heterogeneity of the environments studied. In 1980s, when landscape ecology emerged as a specialized field, the objective of ecologists was to differentiate the ecosystems not only by their heterogeneity, but also by the role of human activities in its dynamics and in emergence of environmental problems. A landscape is a result of a continuous confrontation between society and its environment. It reflects the spatial manifestation of the relations between humans and their environment. This dynamic interaction between environment and society in the genesis and changes in landscapes, and the relative importance of one or the other varying according to the area and time gap, needs to be recognized while studying a landscape. Hierarchy theory. Ecological organizations is developed in a hierarchical structure. A hierarchy is defined as a system of interconnections wherein the higher levels constrain the lower levels to various degrees depending on the time constraints of the behavior. In a hierarchical system, at every level there are elements termed as holons that are at the same time both wholes and parts. Within a hierarchical system, the levels are distinguished by differences in the rates or frequencies of their characteristic processes. See Fig. 2.2. In the figure, the top line, line 3, is a slow variable, one that would serve as a constraint to the lower levels. This may change so slowly that it is perceived as a constant by an observer. The middle line, line 2, might be the scale at which an observer measures change in the system. The lower line, lineal, is a fast variable, one that might change so quickly that its changes could not be measured using the scale adopted by the observer. An important concept in the hierarchy theory is the importance of considering at least 3 hierarchical levels in any study. A second important point is that, although the variables that influence a process may or may not change with scale, a shift in the relative importance of the variables or the perceived direction of a relationship often occurs when spatial or temporal scales are changed. Hierarchy theory also suggests that multiple scales of pattern will exist in landscapes because of the multiple scales at which processes are happening. Thus, hierarchy theory tells us that attention should be focused directly on the scales at times which phenomena of interest occurs, times there is no single universal scale for studying, times landscapes or any other ecological system, times if we change the scales, the relevant processes or even the direction of relationships that we observe may change. The scale of interest must be dictated by the question or phenomenon of interest. Finer scale processes may be viewed as the details required to explain the phenomena at the focal scale, while broader scale patterns are the constraints that limit the potential range of rate processes. Fractal geometry, Burrow, 1981, Mandelbrot, 1983, which identified classes of pattern that remain similar or repeats over a wider range of scales. If the assumptions of the fractal theory are satisfied, extrapolation of spatial pattern across scales becomes possible, allowing broad scale patterns to be predicted from fine scale measurements. An early application of fractal geometry for landscape studies was the use of the fractal dimension as an index of human interference with landscape pattern. Other applications include studies of insect movements, measures of landscape texture, species, perception of landscape structure, generation of artificial landscapes, characterizing landscape pattern, and using fractal theory for landscape design. Percolation theory, Stauffer and Aharoni, 1992, deals with spatial patterns in randomly assembled systems. The application of percolation theory to landscape studies has addressed a series of questions dealing with the size, shape, and connectivity of habitats as a function of the percentage of a landscape occupied by that habitat type. Because percolation theory generates pattern in the absence of specific processes, the comparison of random maps with actual landscapes provides a neutral model capable of defining significant departures from randomness of patterned landscapes. This theory has offered important insights into the nature of connectivity, or its inverse, fragmentation, on landscapes. Descriptions of landscape pattern and process are beginning to benefit from insights provided by the theory of self-organized criticality, Buck et al., 1988. This theory states that open, complex systems, that is, systems with many independent components, may be described by power law statistics over many orders of magnitude. Because these systems are self-similar, a fundamental understanding of scale-dependent phenomena can emerge from studies of self-organized criticality. Well-studied examples of physical systems that display the properties of self-organized criticality include avalanches in sand dunes, earthquakes, and ferromagnetic systems. Recently, these concepts have been applied to ecosystems, with examples that include canopy gaps in rainforests, river flows, and coevolution in multispecies. The importance of these results has recently been confirmed by using power law statistics to estimate the risk. 3.2.5 approaches. Nowadays, there is an increasing problem of landscape fragmentation at the landscape level. Fragmentation refers to the process of subdividing the previously large and continuous extensions of land into relatively small and isolated patches. Consequences of fragmentation include habitat loss for plant and animal species, loss of several direct and indirect ecosystem services, habitat creation for others, decreased connectivity of the remaining vegetation, decreased patch size, increased distance between patches, and an increase in edge at the expense of interior habitat, human activities on landscape pattern through urbanization, agriculture, forestry, as well as the process of exchanging natural vegetation through managed systems have acted as the dominating large-scale cause for fragmentation. In many tropical countries, ongoing landscape change and forest fragmentation through expansion of human land use are of major concern to future sustainability. Extensive land use not only leads to large natural vegetation being split in forest islands in a fragmented landscape, these promote forest degradation due to logging, ground fires, and overhunting, and have serious negative impact on biodiversity. For developing future strategies of management, studies of land cover change and fragmentation is required. 3.3 Factors affecting changes on landscape diversity. Landscapes can be changed by many different natural and human-induced perturbations. Natural perturbations like flooding, fire, and thunderstorms have profound influence on the evolution of landscapes, but generally human influence overwhelms or masks these natural processes because of the higher frequency of occurrence. Human activities that directly changes landscape changes are several, a few of which are mentioned below. In human-dominated landscapes there are many factors that are involved in the change which mostly are related to socio-economic processes, times agricultural intensification. This involves considerable intervention in the surface characteristics of the landscape, soil characteristics, surface water resources, hydrologic patterns, natural vegetation, and input of several agrochemicals. Times agricultural abandonment. Abandonment of agriculture for a specific period is a pattern common to several industrialized countries and hilly and mountainous areas of northern India. Shifting agriculture is very prevalent in hilly terrains of the country, especially northeast India, that leads to changes in landscape features from time to time. Times fire, large scale devastation of forest occur due to regular forest fires that may be either natural or man made. Times deforestation, it modifies the structure and functions of the landscape, increases fragmentation and expands the edge habitat, modifies the diversity of stand age, creates linear borders and gaps, and facilitates the immigration of open space species into the forest interior. Times livestock grazing. Livestock grazing is one important feature that modifies the landscape, especially its ground vegetation and soil characteristics. However, such disturbances are density dependent and plant adaptation is strictly linked to the severity of disturbance. Times infrastructure development, urbanization and infrastructure development like roads, railways and airports cover broad areas of the earth with severe consequences for the landscapes. 3.4 Linking landscape ecology and natural resource management. Rapid increase in the population has significant implications on natural resources. Demands for natural resources have dramatically increased and will continue to increase in subsequent years. These natural resources have been reduced in both quantity and quality as extraction has become more intensive and extensive than ever before. As a result, much of the world's biodiversity has been lost and many species have become threatened and endangered. Other ecological consequences include degradation of ecosystem, goods and services, landscape fragmentation, and unsustainable use of natural resources. Furthermore, management of natural resources is complex due to the interactions among ecological, political, socio-economic, demographic, and behavioral factors. In order to address these great challenges in natural resource management and to achieve sustainability of natural resources in the future, resource managers need insightful guidance and new perspectives from emerging disciplines such as landscape ecology. The main goal of landscape ecology is to understand the causes and ecological consequences of spatial heterogeneity across landscapes and find ways and means for its sustainable but unavoidable utilization. While landscape ecology looks at the structures, their dynamic relationships, processes, and functions in a landscape and its management for the benefit of all living beings, natural resource management aims towards sustaining these natural resources for societal values, example timber, wildlife, fish, water quality, and biodiversity. Although the goals of landscape ecology and natural resource management look different, they are not in conflict and in reality could go hand in hand. Indeed, landscape ecology and natural resource management can be mutually beneficial. Landscape ecology also offers tools, a set of techniques to quantify and track changes in space and time. Models that permit the implications of alternative land management scenarios to be evaluated from a natural resource perspective are also being developed by landscape ecology practitioners. E.g., EcolCon is a spatial model that links ecological and economic considerations in forest harvesting and permits resource outputs and population dynamics to be evaluated under alternative harvest scenarios. The current state of development of landscape ecology as a science bears directly on the gaps between a landscape perspective and the management of natural resources. Some of these gaps derive from the imperfect state of the knowledge science or the mismatch between the needs of managers and the current state of our understanding. Others relate to the current state of resource management and its inability to embrace new paradigms. 3.5 Future of landscape ecology. While traditional natural resource management has met numerous societal needs, it has also caused a host of problems, such as conflicts between management for short term and long term benefits, between management at small scales and large scales, and between management of different natural resources. To overcome the shortcomings of traditional management, it is necessary to facilitate shifts in management paradigms using a landscape perspective. 3.5.1 Integration of cultural knowledge into landscape management. At regional and global scale, it is essential to tie landscape structure with multi-scale management, to link landscape function with cross-boundary management, to connect landscape change with adaptive management, and to use integrated management techniques by incorporating multiscale, cross-boundary, and adaptive management to achieve sustainable landscape integrity. Tress et al. 2001 defined all landscapes consist of both a natural and a cultural dimension. The perceived division between nature and culture has dominated the academic world. In the case of landscapes, this divide is counterproductive and must be overcome since all landscapes are multidimensional and multifunctional. Essentially, all landscapes are cultural, subject to cultural influences, and are a source of cultural knowledge. And as such, sustainability of ecological systems is achievable only within the context of cultural landscapes. In the past decade, cultural landscapes have come to be recognized in a number of key areas. For example, we cannot understand and manage the natural environment unless we understand the human culture that shaped it over the years. Thus, its management becomes an expression of that culture. We must, then, also understand the environment to comprehend how it, in turn, reshapes that culture through feedback processes. Equal emphasis should, therefore, be given to the cultural aspects of ecosystems in their management. The concept of biocultural landscapes, from single-scale management to multi-scale management, traditional management has usually taken place at a single spatial scale. In forestry, for example, management often occurred at the stand level. Because a landscape is usually heterogeneous and ecological, consequences are often scale-dependent. Management must be similarly carried out at multiple scales such as patch, class and landscape. If no patches are the same, then it would be necessary to undertake different management activities in different patches to accommodate landscape heterogeneity. If two or more patches share the same characteristics, these patches can be grouped and categorized into same class and could be managed accordingly. For example, in an agricultural landscape with three patches, A, B, C, patch A has low soil fertility while B and C have high fertility, patches A and B have high density of weeds whereas weed density in patch C is low, and all three patches have low soil moisture. In order to increase productivity and reduce costs, a multi-scale approach would be to enhance fertility, example through applying organic manure in patch A, to control weeds, example through weed management in patches A and B as a class, and to improve water conditions, example through irrigation across the landscape, all three patches. Thus, individual patches or patch clusters need to be assessed and managed in the context of a landscape where management activities can be coordinated to achieve the overall performance of design management plans at the landscape level. B. From static management to adaptive management, since landscapes are constantly changing due to natural and anthropogenic disturbances, including management practices. Management practices suitable for a previous condition are not always appropriate for later conditions. Management strategies need to be changed accordingly with time. Adaptive management has been increasingly used for addressing such dynamic and uncertain issues and to accumulate knowledge, thus reducing uncertainty about the system. C. From isolated management to integrated management, resource management practices from the past often had single objective, which caused many unexpected negative results and varying degrees of socio-economic and ecological conflicts. It is crucial that different types of natural resource management be coordinated in both space and time in accordance with the ecological and economic implications. Integrated management shares many features with widely discussed ecosystem management, but integrated management also takes a landscape perspective by dynamically incorporating spatial interactions across heterogeneous landscapes to achieve sustainable landscape integrity. Relationships among the four major aspects of a landscape and the four management paradigms is shown in Fig. 2.3. Each box refers to a specific linkage between landscape ecology and natural resource management, landscape structure and multiscale management, landscape function and cross-boundary management, and landscape change and adaptive management encompass all three linkages. They are represented by the entire ellipse. 3.6. Landscape ecology and sustainability science. The outcomes of the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro had a profound influence on the development of landscape ecology. References to Rio and Agenda 21 are often used as starting point for working towards the common goal of sustainability. The development of concepts and tools for sustainable landscape planning and the conservation of biodiversity have now become important focal points for research activities across the globe. A key focus of the Rio Summit was the protection of the environment and the search for appropriate forms of social and economic development. United Nations. 1992. Social and economic sustainability were seen as the prerequisites for environmental sustainability. According to the Johannesburg Declaration, is to deliver a civil society that is one which promotes human dignity by the elimination of poverty and which emphasizes the importance of partnership and solidarity. In the above backdrop of the issues concerning the important global causes, Cates et al. 2001 suggested that the science and technology communities became increasingly estranged from the societal and political processes that were shaping the sustainability agenda. He emphasized into having a new social contract for science which is necessary to deal with the situation we are facing today and combine analytical and integrative streams of science within ecology. Sustainability science is characterized by a number of important features that marks it out as different from traditional approaches to the natural sciences. The term sustainability science is a relatively new one. Irwin, 1995, explored the role of public science, that is, science conducted outside formal scientific institutions. His analysis focused on the relationship of the formal science, which often claims to be universal, and the less systematic and local knowledge possessed and developed by citizen groups. He stressed the importance of citizen science in the context of more effectively pursuing the goals of sustainable development, the relevance of landscape ecological thinking to the concerns of sustainability science are perhaps best explored by reference to the core questions suggested as being at the center of the new science by Cates et al. 2001 in their paper Sustainability Science, published in Science 292, 5517. Landscapes and Sustainability, a Conceptual Model. The case for an alternative paradigm for landscape ecology based on the concept of ecosystem goods and services or natural capital has been suggested as one way of meeting the challenges that face the discipline in the context of the sustainability debate. As Young, 2000. There has been paradigm shift of focus from an ecological point to a more anthropocentric one, in which landscapes and the ecosystems associated with them are viewed as a resource that provides a range of goods and services for people. A sustainable landscape is one in which the output of these goods and services is maintained and the capacity of those systems to deliver benefits for future generations is not undermined, where benefits are assessed in both monetary and non-monetary terms. Fig 2.4 Conceptualizing the Sustainability Choice Space Tongue Model. Look at the screen. The outlines of the natural capital paradigm can be illustrated by referring to Fig 2.4, which takes into account of the evolutionary nature of multifunctional landscapes and need to keep future options open. The model also seeks to counter claims that landscape ecology should seek to identify optimal configurations of landscape that deliver sustainability. Thus, the model proposes that while landscape structure and function are important in the real world, a range of alternative configurations can more or less sustain the range of ecosystem goods and services currently identified and valued by people as essential or desirable. This set of alternative configurations defines the grey tongue shape, which gives the model its nickname, the tongue model. The tongue model helps us in defining a number of key questions for the research and policy communities that are likely to arise in the post-Johannesburg Summit sustainability science era. The model challenges us to find ways to define the range of landscape configurations that are sustainable and to identify the boundaries or thresholds of the sustainability, i.e., choice space or possibility space. It also helps in describing the relationship of present landscape trajectories to this set and what other pathways are possible or necessary. It also challenges to find ways of constructing this sustainability choice space as a framework in which our understanding of biophysical limits and stakeholder values are linked in an integrated way through the idea of landscape. The model highlights the need to develop more transdisciplinary approaches to the discipline, in which natural scientists not only engage with different publics to identify landscape issues, but also work alongside economists and other social scientists to develop an integrated understanding of these sustainability limits. 3.7 Summary. The unit describes the basic concepts of landscape ecology. The principles of landscape ecology are broadly divided in 4 categories, which help in understanding the details of landscape. Scientific methods of studying landscape ecology include approaches and various tools, namely RUPES, GIS, and GPS for field analysis and integration of both. Spatial and non-spatial data are also described. Times the concept of scale is taken as a separate part to understand landscape ecology. To understand any process like acid rain, climate change, habitat fragmentation, it requires an understanding of a pattern and various processes occurring at different scales, be it local, regional, or global. Times it is also important to study the history and evolution of landscape ecology as a science. The various theories are discussed briefly. These are hierarchy theory, fractal geometry, percolation theory, times the structure and dynamics of the landscape describing ecotones and heterogeneity are discussed in detail quantitatively and qualitatively. The various practical approaches to quantify landscape pattern in form of metrics is given using softwares like FracStat and Patch Analyst. Times various factors affecting changes on landscape diversity is studied with a linkage of natural resource management with the help of case studies. The 2 areas taken here are aquatic resources and forest resources. Times the importance of cultural knowledge integrated to the landscape management is also studied subsequently in addition to the importance of Rio Summit's outcome that had an impact on evolution of sustainability science with an emphasis on the conceptual model, Tiongyu model, highlighting the need to develop more transdisciplinary approaches to the discipline to develop an integrated understanding of these sustainability limits. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with next chapter.